So I'm helping Tara with Skull.
So AG after first AoE.
Got it.
Oh my god, I'm fucking dead.
Well, it's on me, and I have my LE.
Dude.
Go quick, we might still make it.
Yo! So this is a 22 Vortex Pinnacle on Fortified Storming Bursting Week. So in this first pull, make sure that we're being mindful of clicking the Wild Vortex. We want to kick everything that goes in here, but especially the Cyclone, otherwise people are going to get CC'd. And then the Gust Soldier are something that I actually have our DPS hard focusing because it does a rushing wind that just does a massive amount of damage for Fortified Week. The other thing to be mindful of is these Armored Mistrals, which there's one here, and you can see I'm about to pull 2 more in. They do a frontal shield, which obviously, you know, you got to watch that you're not, you know, not doing damage because of it, but it also does that giant circle that knocks things up. So as a tank, make sure that you're not standing in this. You can use certain things to like not get hit. For instance, you'll see me here in just a few seconds use Bubble to just like completely immune it, so that I don't have to move and I can keep on damaging, and it, you know, keeps it a little bit safer. If you're playing like something like a monk, you can definitely use something like Diffuse Magic and then just transcend back down after it knocks you up. Just be aware it does do quite a bit of damage if you get hit by it. And then, you know, things like, you know, jumping out and jumping in if you're a Vengeance DH. If you're a Berry, you can, I guess, you know, just run. You will see I just kind of run out, in and out. But basically, we're just taking care of this first pack. You'll notice that we didn't use Lust here. We're actually going to save it for a later pack where we have 2 of the Gust Soldiers and 2 of the Wild Vortexes. So here again, this next pack, you can see things are getting marked. We're going to nuke down X, which is that Gust Soldier, and we're going to focus our kicks on the Wild Vortex. Now again, as the Paladin, I'm just kind of like sitting on the Star Wild Vortex, and then my other melee is watching for the Cyclone kicks from the other Wild Vortex. It's kind of okay if they get their wind bolts going off from just 1, but having them go off by 2 is not very good. Keep in mind while we're here that you are facing that lurking ad. That way it stays down. If no one's facing it, then it does, you know, do a one-shot cast at somebody. So definitely make sure that you're being aware of that. I try to always face it as the tank. That way other people don't have to worry about it, at least at this side. Now you'll notice we still have the 2 Minstrels up. I'm just going to keep on pulling those. They're not actually super deadly besides the fact of the knock-up, right? So as soon as the Wind Vortexes and the Gust Soldiers are dead, you'll notice I'm just going to keep on going to the next pack. And I'm going to kind of continue that pattern as we go throughout. Now this one does have 2 Gust Soldiers, so it's extremely like deadly on Fortified Week. So definitely on a 22, I mean even 20 and higher. Make sure as a defensive, you know, be ready to use those defensives as a DPS here. So we're making sure that I'm using my Word of Glories to help anyone who gets hit by 1. If you get hit by 2, it's gonna kill you if you don't have a defensive up. So we made sure to tell people that, hey, if you get hit by 1, instantly use that defensive, because if you get hit by 2, you're just gonna die. So anyways, you can see we're nuking down Skull here. I'm still trying to make sure that I'm getting kicks on everything from Star. And now that we've got 1 down, it's a little bit safer. We're not going to ever have 2 go off on the same person, right, back to back, so it's a little bit safer. Now the next pack, again, does have 2 Gust Soldiers and has 2 Wild Vortex, and it's got another one of the dudes that knocks things up with another one of those like guys who chills underground. So this is where we actually use Lust to make sure that we are getting full, you know, just nuking this as much as possible, and then this will make sure that it's back up for the second boss, which is honestly probably the boss that you need it for the most, and then again for the final boss. So in here again, I'm just making sure to kick as many of the Wild Vortex cast while DPS are nuking down Skull Ghost Soldier. Now that it's dead, they're going to be working on X, and we're not really worried too much about the other guy who does the knock-up in the guard. We're just, you know, cleaving him down as we can. It's not super important. As soon as everything's dead here, you'll notice I'm just going to pull him over because, again, he's not super deadly. He's just kind of annoying. The only thing I'm going to wait for is for his shield to end, and then I'm going to pull him over. Again, I'm going to make sure I'm focusing on staying towards this lurking guy once I get the the trash pulled, so I pull it up here, and again we've got 2 another Wild Vortex, and now we have this new ad here. Now this ad does a lot of damage when it's doing its pushback here. Definitely be ready to, if you are a paladin, make sure that you're ready to, you know, throw out Blessing of Sack. Make sure that you're being ready to use Word of Glories. That way you can help keep topped off the rest of the group. We are alternating having our healer use healing cooldowns, as well as we're, you know, working in vamps and AGs as we go. This one's not too bad because it's just one, so we didn't like put a big emphasis on it, but the next pull has 2 of those mobs, and it does do quite a bit of damage for you know, just being 2 mobs. You can see on that pushback we actually did lose our priest there, which is unfortunate, but again we're able to continue as we go along. The other thing to make sure, obviously, is that you don't stand in that bomb that just went off there. Mostly, if there is one that spawns in melee, then I'll pull it away, but if it's not in melee, then I'm not too worried about it. Now, moving along, I want to make sure I'm still focusing on getting up here and making sure the lurker stays down. And again, we want to try to just nuke one of the cloudbursts. Obviously, we want to cleave onto them, right? But we do want to be prioritizing one, that way we're not having 2 of those go off. I know that's a little bit less efficient damage-wise, but it's a lot more efficient when it comes to the amount of damage that's going out. So you can see our DPS are using defensives. Our Shaman just popped Earth Ellie. That's not for me. That's for him to, you know, have extra health. Now he's using Astral Shift. And this is where we are rotating our AGs and our Vamps to help out with the healing. And I'm definitely making sure to use Word of Glory and Sack as I can. If you're running Spell Warding, I do believe Spell Warding also works to prevent the damage on that. I didn't use it here because I'm a big dum-dum, but it is something that you can use. And then once the first one's dead, second one still is deadly, obviously. You still want to, you know, treat it with respect, but it's a lot less deadly than it is when there's 2 of those going off, obviously. So now that this is done, normally my healer is going to have to drink here, so I'm just making sure you saw there I was like facing the lurker until he was ready. And when we go to engage this pool, you want to make sure you always engage it from the direct opposite side of your melee or your range. That way none of the 4 lurkers around are able to attack. Generally just having it in that position works out really well. Here you just want to make sure that we're interrupting the boss, right? As a paladin, this is super nice because your shields can pretty much get almost all of them, but obviously I'm calling out for, like, you know, who's going to get the next kick if I can't get it, whether it's my Shaman or my Hunter, and the priest is there to just, you know, look pretty, obviously. Meanwhile, these balls, a lot of people I find have trouble dealing with it. There's 2 different ways that you can deal with it. You can notice after this comes back from the intermission phase here, I kind of deal with it, but I just strafe left and right, and you can avoid them completely by doing that. Some people will just move forward and then back. Just be aware, if you move too far backwards, the boss will start meleeing your other melee. But you can see as these balls start to come in, basically you'll have one where it's like you're fine, and then all you need to do is either move to the left or to the right a little bit, and then you just keep on going back between those 2 positions and you'll be fine. So you'll notice right where I'm at now, that one ball to my right didn't hit me. This one on the left is going to hit me, so I just move left and I move right, and now the one coming from my left isn't going to hit me. So I just keep on shifting like that during this phase while focusing on kicks. Avoid the tornadoes when they come out like this, and you're pretty good. Now this phase, you can see I threw a defensive. I threw Sack onto our Shaman just because he's got a little bit less defensive options than our Hunter and Shadow Priest. Feels really weird saying that after, like, for so long Hunters had like no defensives, but strangely this tier BM Hunters actually have like a lot of defensives. So anyways, making sure to always, you know, help out with healing with Word of Glories, and, you know, making sure to throw out sacks or spell warding during that can definitely help out. But you notice we didn't use Lust on this boss because, again, we did use it on that pack about 3 packs ago. And we're just going to, you know, deal with the boss from here on out doing the same thing. Alright, now once it's dead, the funniest thing here is watching people jump and thinking that you just jump in the tornado here and it takes you. Don't forget to click. Easy way to wipe the key by just like, oh no, I forgot to click. It's actually not that bad since there's a teleport to get back to this spot, but hey. Now, on this side, instead of just pulling one side of these squalls, I'm actually going to pull both. This is because we're going to skip a dragon a little bit later, and in order to do that, you do need to pull both sides here. Now, the thing to be careful about when pulling both sides is that these are all going to get cast, and if they go off, they do like massive AoE damage. So just be ready to make sure that we're kicking using Avenger's Shield, using regular kicks. We also use AoE stops such as like Knock Up. I use Blinding Light. We'll have Fear, In-Cap Roar, different things of that nature just to stop these. You definitely don't want any of these going off. If you do, you're going to take a lot of damage. You can see there's already a lot of damage going out to not just me, but the entire group as we're dealing with this pull. So definitely be careful. Make sure to use defensives here. It can get really sketchy really fast. And this is bursting week, so be careful about killing them all at the same time. Luckily, we do have the Shadow Priest to take care of bursting, but apparently they also have shields on them, so just make sure to remind your Shadow Priest, if you have one in there, not to mass dispel off the shields, and to instead just like have Purge take care of those, so that you don't kill yourself with the bursting sex. Now, these assassins, these two actually are a little bit more deadly than you'd think. So definitely make sure that your range are spread out. He'll teleport, and then he'll attack anyone that's near them. So definitely just make sure that people know to stay spread. We've seen before where our priest and hunter were stacked, and they jumped to one and just hit both, and the next one jumped to the other person, hit both, and they both died. So you can see they're keeping a good spread here, and we're making sure to, again, just like earlier, tell people that if they get hit by one, use a defensive, so that if they get hit by the other one, it doesn't kill them. And again, watching for Ward of Glory healing and whatnot. Now, Dragon, we're going to pull this Dragon. We are going to pull it out, and then we're going to stand in the healing circle. It does heal everyone, but this does do a lot of damage to the entire group. So we opt to skip the second Dragon, which is why we're going to pull a little. We pulled a little bit more earlier. We're going to pull a little bit more here in a little bit. But you can see here, it's doing a lot of damage. Don't know if it's actually more efficient to skip the Dragon, but our healer wanted us to skip it, so we skipped it. And here, just make sure you kind of stand still, point away from the rest. That way, if the breath picks me, they don't have to get hit by it, or there's at least a safe spot over here. But generally, just kind of help out with healing and try to nuke this down as fast as possible. You can see we have them stay on the other side of the circle, and me staying on one side. That way, again, if it picks me, they're safe. If it picks them, I'm safe, and there's always a safe area. If you stand right in the middle, then you're asking for everyone to move out of the healing circle. So now we're going to come back here and pull the other two assassins. Again, this is because we're going to skip the next dragon, so we need these two assassins for the percent. Again, stay spread. Make sure that we're kicking the cast that they do. If they do get that cast off, it will give them a shield, which gives them like 80% damage reduction. It can be purged off by any purge effects, Shaman, Priest, Hunter, Demon Hunter. I think Warlocks might still have that, I'm not really sure. But once one's dead, it's safe to go into the next one. It's kind of deadly to pull more than, just these two. We probably could have pulled these two into the next pack, but I wanted to be safe. So as soon as one dies, I'm going to pull it into the next pack. Now, this next pack does have another Gust Soldier from earlier, 2 of these Cyclone dudes, and then 2 Squalls. So lots of kicks to watch here. You do want to prioritize down the Gust Soldier, because again, it's going to do the most amount of damage to people, but we do want to watch for kicks. So here, we're trying to watch the the kicks for the Cyclone, and I'm just trying to get as many of the star kicks as I normally can. That's normally one that I watch out for as we're going through here. And then being aware to use, when the Squalls start casting below 50%, that's when we use things like Blinding Light, Totem. You can see he just used his Thunderstorm Knockup. We use those things to stop those and focus our kicks on the Wild Vortex instead, because the Squall doesn't actually do the cast that often. Now, once those are dead and you just have the Squalls left, you can start pulling to the next group, because the Squalls, again, they only cast every so often. We are only going to pull 2 of these assassins at a time, because again, the damage of them continuously jumping, if you get the same person picked more than once in a row, it will just kind of kill them on Fortified. So on Fortified, this high level 22, we are opting to do 2 at a time, and then we'll pull the other 2 once one of these dies. But if you try to do all 4 together, just really be ready to use defensives. I wouldn't recommend it. There is enough time on this dungeon, but just make sure you're not pulling too much, and then risk reward is there. So as soon as the one's dying, I'm going to start pulling over to the next one. There I go. And same thing, just make sure we're getting kicks on these, be ready to dispel, and stay spray. Now, the next pool after this does have more of the Squalls and 2 more Assassins in it. So it does do quite a bit of damage, since those Squalls just kind of like do a lot of damage AoE. So definitely make sure that your healers have a chance to drink here, whether you're pulling that or you're pulling the Dragon next. We are skipping the Dragon. You don't need anything special to skip the Dragon, you just need to go on the side. But we do Mind Soothe it just in case someone gets too close. If you don't Mind Soothe it, you do have to kind of hug the left side here a little bit more. But here I'm just trying to make sure to get threat on everything, grabbing the 2 Assassins, and again focusing our kicks on the Assassins, and we'll again focus our AoE stops on the Squalls as they cast. Again, make sure it is you are kind of like stuck against this wall here, so you can see that we've got one of our ranged on one side, the other on the other, and then our healers just kind of like in between, but still spread apart. That way, again, if the Assassins jump, you're not worried about dealing with those types of things, getting more than one person. And again, once again, because it is Bursting Wake, make sure that we're not, using Mass Dispel on the Squalls to get rid of these shields that they put up. Instead, just purging those so that we have it for when all these die around the same time, because that's generally what happens with these mobs. Alright, so our next pool is going to be our second boss with Lust and Pots again. And this boss is one that it seems like a lot of people tend to have trouble with trying to figure out why they're still taking damage from wind. So I'll kind of go through how we call it out to make it a little bit easier for our different DPS and healers and stuff that are in the group, just to make sure everyone's kind of on the same page. So we do kind of just stack up together and move out of the way for breaths. But when we pull this, you definitely want to pull the boss to the middle of the circle. If he's off to one side or the other, it makes it a lot harder. So make sure that middle tornado is right underneath them. So as soon as the wind comes, we just call out, since there is to our right, we just call it right, and then everyone moves to the right. Here we're just making sure to dodge this, and then we're watching for when the wind's going to come again. So it's coming in 3, we say, hey, wind soon, and then here at reverse, so we just call reverse, and that just means go through the boss and turn around. Now, the ring here that's coming out, obviously you jump into these cyclones and jump over them. You can use things like bubble, you can spell word people, if someone's a turtle, right, you can use turtle. So any of the immunities normally do work. And again, we're just staying stacked together. Wind change, I would just call it left, and we all move to the left and just stay together the whole time here. Obviously, again, that means that we do have to move for when the breath's coming, but we find that this is the safest way to deal with it. Just makes it easier for everyone to kind of be on the same page. So it's about to change again here. It changed, we say to right, go to right, and then we let people know to be ready to grab that ring. Now, you don't want to take these tornadoes too early, because you will fall back down, obviously, but you do get pretty much a pretty big leeway in time there, so it's not too bad. So as long as you do it like this, it's really not that big a deal. But if you do see someone gets into no man's land or runs the wrong way for the wind, just be ready to throw spell warding on them. I always take spell warding in almost all the dungeons this tier, along with the cleanse, just because it seems like it's helpful in almost all the dungeons. So be ready to use spell warding on a person if you need, and if you're focused on healing someone or helping to heal someone, you can always just bubble yourself with bubble taunt and be safe that way as well. Every once in a while you will have it where the wind times up to where you're knocked up in the air and the wind changed. It was really close on that one. There's going to be one here in a little bit where it's actually a little bit closer. If that ever happens and you get stuck in the downdraft while you're up in the air, definitely use a defensive there, even as a tank, where you're a healer, DPS tank, whatever, because that's where you're most likely going to die. The most deadly part of this most of the time is the downdraft and just people getting stuck in it. So once that's dead, we are going into the last section of the dungeon. If you die for this point, you when you release, you just want to go to the right and take the right tornado to get to this location. So here, the things that are the most dangerous, you can see I just marked this. I call it the Caleb because that's my cat's name, but the Caliph here. You want to focus DPS on that, and as the Prot Paladin, I'm going to take care of the kicks on the Adept. So I just kind of use Avenger's Shield to kick like the regular cast that it does. That's just going on damage. But when it does the greater heal, that's when I'll use my regular kick. They are stunnable for the Adepts, which are the healers. So you can use like Hodge as well or Blinding Light. But you do want to also make sure that you are kicking the rally on the Caliph, which is what we just put our DPS on to kick. Now the Caliph does do a lot of AoE damage. It's one of the few mobs this seems like this dungeon rotation that actually does AoE damage to everyone, so definitely respect the damage that's going out, and don't be afraid to throw out things like Bop or Sack if it seems like people are low right before that's about to go off. And then do keep in mind that the other ones, the Assads, I think is what they're called, the ones that died last there, they do a charge on people. It doesn't hurt too much, but if you get hit by quite a few of them in a row, you will see them go down. So just make sure, again, people are spread out for that. Now in the next area we have the same mobs again, except for this time there's a Lightning Lasher. I think it's called the Adept of Air. I'm not actually sure. And we've got this, sorry, Minister of Air. There we go. So here we just got one healer, two of the like chargy boys, and the Minister of Air. So again, I'm going to take care of everything on the Adept while the DPS focus the Minister of Air. When it targets the person, you're going to see them move into the little lightning pyramid that stops them from taking the damage from these lightning lashes. But right after that, then he's going to like do AoE to anything inside that pyramid, so they're going to move out. So you'll see them doing that. We just have a different DPS since I'm sitting on the Adept for the kicks. We have someone else call out who the target is, because you can see who they target before they start the cast, and they just move in and then move out when it's time to move out. But here, they are focusing the Minister of Air. I was just doing a lot more damage to the Adept, so that's why it died first. And we're just AoEing down the other guys. The nice thing about this pack is that it actually doesn't do that much damage to the rest of the group. Obviously, like the cast going off in the Adept and the charges from these Assads do a lot of damage, but it's not like too much because there's not a Caliph in it. So once these are dead, comes one of the most dangerous pulls in here on Fort Week. It's these stars, and my God, if these don't just completely destroy you. So you're going to notice everyone here is using all their defensives. You're seeing them all pop up on their screens. I'm even going to throw out some Sack or Spell Reflect just to help out and just kind of do as much damage. Divine Toll does a fuck ton of damage to these ads, which is really nice, just with all the ricochets. But definitely make sure that you're helping out with those. And you can see again, I just threw out my Spell Reflect there, or sorry, not Spell Reflect, but Spell Warding, and just kind of nuking these down. Definitely respect this pack as well as the pack before the last boss. They can ruin your key. Ask me how I know. Alright, these next two packs that are coming up are actually kind of dangerous. There's two healers in this group and one Caliph. So again, we have our DPS focus the Caliph, and I just have another one of the DPS helping with the kicks on the heal for Triangle. So I'm still focusing Triangle. They're all focusing Diamond here, which is the Caliph, and a different DPS is doing the focus kick for the heal on Triangle. And I'm just trying to get as many kicks on either of the Adepts' regular casts as I can, while still making sure to kick the heal on Star. This again does quite a bit of damage. It's not as much as the very next pack, as you'll see, or may have already seen at the beginning, but it is still one that you kind of want to respect. But definitely save your cooldowns. You're actually going to notice that the next pool we are going to save and use our pots on, because it is probably the most deadly pack outside the stars in the group. There are two Caliphs here and a Minister of Air. So on here, this is where you're about to see what you heard at the beginning of the video here. So definitely make sure that as the tank you are respecting these mobs and using a defensive here, which I apparently did not, and you can see, boom, I just get 3-shot. So they do a lot of damage. So be very careful there. As we run back, you're gonna actually see my death log here. I got hit by 3 of these mobs within 0.1 second of each other for 250k each. So the Chargers decided to pick me at the same time as a Caliph hit me, right after another Caliph had already hit me, and that's all she wrote. So you can see we've got 5 minutes left. If you have 5 minutes left, and you meet the damage check here, and you've got pots to do on this pool, and then you still have less for the last one, you're actually, spoiler, you're going to be fine. So that's about the time that you want to deal with this. So again, here our DPS are going to focus on the Skull Caliph. I'm going to focus on getting the kicks on Star, and then our Priest is actually just going to sit on the Minister of Air to call out who's getting targeted by it. Just what we found easiest to do here. So we are popping our DPS pots here. We're making sure to just put as much damage onto Skull as we can. And again, someone's calling out the airs for who's getting inside that lightning pyramid. This right here, definitely don't be afraid to use defensives. When these two Caliphs do their AoE damage, it's going to hit for like half your health, right? You can see it just went off there, and then another one's going to do it right after. So that's why we're prioritizing getting one of them down, and then immediately after that, we'll get the second one down. But here we are rotating healer CDs. I said we used our pots, whatever offensives we have, and all defensives, and then we're rotating Vamps and AGs just to kind of help with this. And you can see just how dangerous it is as this first one's still not dead, and they're both going off. As soon as the first one's dead, it's a little bit better. We are going to go ahead and focus the other Caliph down, and just continue to cleave down the others. Don't be afraid to use Bubble Taunt here. This is probably the pack that is probably the worst to deal with, where you're going to see yourself as the tank take the most damage. So I should have Bubble Taunted there, but I didn't. Instead, I had a heal put onto me from my Enhanced Shaman, which is awesome. Now, jumping off here, you don't actually have to run down. You can actually jump off. They used to teleport you back, but now you can jump down. So I just activate my Parasol and jump down. Make sure you don't jump down towards the mobs. We actually did this. This is our second BP22. We failed the last one because of this pack right here. Someone landed in it when the other person was running down, and yeah, we just died because we didn't have enough people here to do damage to take them down, and didn't have our full defensives to use, and it was not a good time. So respect this star pack. This star pack wiped our last VP22, but this time we respected it. We didn't jump right into it. We jumped off to the side, and you can see everyone lived. So we've got 3 minutes to take care of this boss. We got Lust coming up in a little bit. With this boss, big thing, just put as much damage in it as you can, right? When the ad comes out, prioritize it. Use defensives, and don't forget to jump. If people do forget to jump, you can use, as a paladin, you can use freedom to get their debuff off. You can also use things like disengage as a hunter, Tiger's Lust as a monk. Priest can use fade if they talent into the one that's like that. So anything that removes like slows or snares will remove it. You can shift it as a druid. And then just make sure that you get into the lightning shield. You can see here, I was like, oh, it's not quite finished, so I'm going to stand over here and get some more damage on the boss, and I should have respected it. And good thing I didn't use bubble earlier, because I needed it right there to stay alive. Could have wiped the key right there. So just make sure you get in there. You can still damage from afar, especially as like a paladin tank. Right after, you can see that our DPS spread out though, because that chain lightning comes out, so we always want to spread right after it. And then again, just get back on these ads and deal as much damage to them as you can. As long as you respect those things, spreading out and nuking these ads, making sure to put priority damage into them, it's really not that bad. There is something to be known for your range players. The farther away from the ad that you are, the less damage you take from it. Or at least that's what it seemed like when we were dealing this. So I generally tell them to stand farther away so that they're not, right on top of it taking more damage. You can see that our Hunter was taking less damage, it looks like, than everyone else there, just with how far they were from this ad. So that might actually just be an armor thing, but it looked like it. So don't quote me on that. I could be wrong, but it does seem like the farther away you are, you take less damage. Now here we've got just a minute left, and we've got 30% left to go. You can see my timer in the middle. It's been about 2 minutes. So we are gonna once again spread out. We are going to take care of this next ad that spawns, and then from there on out, we're just going to nuke the boss because we are almost out of time. So with our damage here, you can see we're throwing out defensives because we're close. We're getting ready to jump. If anyone needs that weak aura, I'll make sure to post it in here. The one that tells you when to jump. It's super helpful. They did add the visual now, so you can just know once the visual shows up on the ground that you can jump. But here we're just going to nuke the boss, and we're going to ignore this ad. So, if you did like this video, please make sure to leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you have any comments for me, leave them down in the comments below. I'll make sure to hit you back up with any answers I might have for you. Anyways, that's it for me. See ya!